There you are. Hey, everybody. How are we? Bubble wrap? It's not bubble wrap. It's the fire. It's the fire, kinda. Where did it go? Where did it go? Buttons. There we go. There you go. Kinda. Oh, yeah. Oh, much better. How's everybody doing? Are you ready? Everybody ready? You want me to read you to sleep? Well, welcome back to the infamous Boop Club. Something that is so out there in left field, I can't even believe that it's a thing. And it's a thing. All right, hopefully that fire is not too much for you. Just, ooh. As most of you know, we are on book 2. Let's test that focus again. Oh, crystal clear. The most beautiful moment in life, book 2. And of course, our bookmark for this one is going to be, you know who. Boom. There you go. You're welcome. Put you right to sleep. All right, is everybody ready? You got your blankie, you got your clean socks, got your water. Everybody ready to go? All right. The Endless Journey. Jin, 30 September, year 22. The container was ablaze. I covered my mouth and nose with my sleeve and looked around. I had to find Junie, but with the smoke rising in front of me, I couldn't see a thing. People with black masks and hats suddenly appeared in the smoke. Their metal pipes rent the smoky air. Someone collapsed, grabbing his bleeding head. Drum cans on fire rolled beneath those people. The place seemed like hell on earth, with the smell of iron and plastic burning, flames rising, and people wailing. In the midst of it all, one boy was running with tears streaming down his face. I followed the boy with my eyes. He ran to where Junie's container house was. When I jumped into the smoke, I couldn't stop coughing. My eyes stung. Still, I ran. When I saw the mark on the black hats, I stopped. I had seen that mark at a redevelopment meeting. I remembered each face I had seen there, including my dad's. The demolition date. When it was on paper, it seemed dry and formal. The matter-of-fact expressions, smiles, and chatting of the people in the meeting had not foretold what was happening now. This place, where the people were being forced to move out of their container houses, was nothing short of hell. I saw the container on fire not too far away. The people in front of it were trying to move a heavy iron plate that fell in front of its door, and someone yelled, "Someone is still inside." It was Junie's container. I pushed through the people and got to the door. The plate was blocking the door. And when I grabbed the plate, my hand burned from the heat. 1, 2, 3, someone counted, and on 3, we pushed away the plate. With the plate away, the half-torn down door opened with a bang. The poisonous gas gushed out, and inside was someone on the floor. I pushed away the hands that held me back and ran inside. And when I dragged Junie out, someone said, "He looks dead. He must really be dead." "Kim Namjoon, wake up!" I shook his shoulders and brought my ear close to his chest. I screamed at him and slapped his cheek, but he didn't open his eyes. "Kim Namjoon!" I punched the ground and screamed his name. At that very moment, everything became faint. The fire, heat, screams, and explosions. My body felt as heavy as lead. And I heard a window being shattered at a faraway distance. I will not give up. Jin, 11 April, year 22. I opened my eyes again amid the pouring sunlight. The vision of a blazed container and dying Namjoon was still vivid before my eyes. I failed again. I covered my eyes with my arms and thought, what could I have done to save him? In my head, I rewound everything that had happened on September 30th. I had no emotions about it, and I didn't feel afraid or impatient. Ever since the fire broke out at the container village, I had gone through countless time loops. But I still didn't know why the loop began from that moment or how to end it. More importantly, I still had no clues about the map of the soul, which could end this time loop. The map of the soul. The first time I heard it was after failing the loop several times. Find the map of the soul, then all this can end. The map of the soul? What is that? I pressed for an answer. But all I got were a few words. I gave you a clue, so you should pay the price for it. The gas station where Junie works began to be seen far away. I slowly pushed the turn signal down and changed lanes. I thought about one thing only. I have to prevent the accident on September 30th and end the time loop. That is the only goal I have. If something happens, someone gets hurt or left behind, there is nothing I can do. If I worry or fret about that, I won't realize my goal. What is more important than saving everyone is that at least I have to come out of this alive. This was the lesson I learned from the endless time loop. Tay, 11 April, year 22. Junie, was it our choice to have become what we are now, or... Junie and I were standing in a narrow alley somewhere in Songju. The streetlights flickered on and off ominously over the wall painted with my graffiti. Jin's face I'd drawn on the wall in the morning, his slender face, silent lips, hair ready to crumble into dust, and empty eyes. I had a nightmare last night. My high school friends were in it, and terrible and vicious things happened. And Jin was watching everything, stone-faced. I drew that grim face because otherwise I couldn't shake away the fear that filled my heart. When I went to see Junie, he said something unexpected. Jin is back. I swung around and looked at Junie. Was it a coincidence? The last time I saw Jin was 2 years ago. I heard he went to the United States, and that was it. Jin seems to have changed much. I mean, his appearance is just the same, but something is odd. I can't really put it into words, but he seems as if something in him has become undone and vanished. Hearing that from Junie, I grabbed his arm and ran to this alley. Junie stayed quiet in front of my graffiti. He didn't really listen to my questions and didn't ask me why I didn't draw the pupils in Jin's eyes. Maybe because the face that Junie had seen on Jin looked like the face I had drawn. I said, I was too scared to draw the pupils. I could clearly see Jin's face in my mind, including his pupils, which were impossible to forget. But I didn't know how to draw them, his cold and indifferent eyes from which feelings like sadness or joy were completely evaporated. His eyes that seemed of so many different colors, or all the colors meshed into one, or that seemed to have so many stories to tell, but were unable to tell any. I grabbed a spray can again and again, but I couldn't draw his eyes. Do you know Jin's number? Junie turned around and asked me why. To ask him something. Well, about what? Well, I don't know what, but I want to see him and maybe ask him. Suddenly, Junie's phone rang. Why aren't you here yet? It was Hobie. He said Yoongi and Jungkook were waiting for us at the container. We left the alley as if we were running away. Junie, 11 April, year 22. At a distance, I saw the lights from the container. I walked in silence, and so did Tae, who was walking behind me. Nobody told us to, but we both walked slowly, as if we were going in the wrong direction. We kept looking behind us. We slowed down more as the lights got closer. Are you going to tell them about Jin? When Tae asked, I hesitated. Well, just that he came back from America. I remembered how Jin had looked when he showed up at the gas station all of a sudden. His face that looked empty and his dry voice. And I remembered what Tae had said. Was it our choice to have become what we are now, or... And Tae didn't finish his question. He was probably going to say, destiny. Whether I believed in destiny. Destiny? I had never really thought about it. I thought destiny was either the environment one's born into or the personality one has. But when Tae asked me that question, I didn't want destiny to exist. I didn't want anything to have been decided. I wanted everything to be possible or to be decided by one's choice. We opened the container door and saw Yoongi, Hobie, and Jungkook. It had been 2 years. Destiny. Hobie, 20 April, year 22. Two-Star Burger became jam-packed with people in a flash. The people who jumped into the burger joint to avoid the sudden shower looked lost as they all stared out the dark window. The rain that had started from the clear blue sky soon turned into a downpour. It became dark outside the window, like night with the lightning cutting across the black clouds. The air became heavy and wet with the moisture from the rain and from the people inside the burger joint. There was a sharp sound of alert. At first, it sounded like something falling from the opposite side of the joint, and something rolled around on the floor, with the people apologizing and sidestepping. A similar sound came from the other side, and then came beep, beep, beep. A shrill metal sound. Unnerved, the people turned around, with the beep still ringing here and there. My phone inside my pocket vibrated. It was an alert text. And suddenly I saw Jimin across the room, or a student who looked like Jimin. Park Jimin! I yelled his name, but he must not have heard me because he simply disappeared behind a pillar. I jumped over the counter and followed after him. 1 week ago, I had met up with my high school friends, and seeing them again was as unexpected as the time we had gone our separate ways. I was happy to see them, but that wasn't all. Someone asked, "Have you been in contact with Jimin?" The last time I had seen Jimin was when he had a fit and got carried away to the hospital. The boy turned around. He was a young student in a school uniform. I looked out the window and saw my own reflection. I was standing in the pouring rain. I was in the crowd of people, but I was alone at the same time. Everyone looked scared with the dark and heavy air hanging over us. Tay, 21 April, year 22. Jin did not pick up again. Ever since I heard he came back, I had called him every day. I looked down at my phone. Kim Suk-jin. His name looked oddly unfamiliar. What should I do? I gave it a thought and just started walking. My nightmare kept coming back after that day, and I woke up soaking wet. I felt I could ease my anxiety if I could talk to him. It had become dark by the time I passed the Jungang Park and got to the place across from the Songju Cultural Center, a ritzy area which I usually had no reason to be in. I stopped in front of Jin's front gate. I was there, but I had no plan whatsoever. Cars with headlights whizzed by me. I headed to the alley next to the gate. It was a bit uphill, where I could look down on the garden of Jin's house. The garden looked lush with green grass and leafy trees. I don't know how long I stood there. I saw the light being turned on in a room on the second floor of the house, and someone walking behind the white curtain. It was Jin. I took out my phone. I waited to be connected, but Jin stayed motionless, looking at the wall across the window. I heard the automatic voice message, and Jin walked away and disappeared from my sight. As he stepped aside, I could see the wall that had been hidden from him. I was too far away to see it clearly, but there was a map on the wall. A map of Songju with my neighborhood, Junggangdong and Yongsan-dong. The map had several post-its on it and some areas highlighted with a marker. I craned my neck to see it better. When I realized what I was looking at, I was able to see it better. The school, Gyeonggil Hospital on the right-hand side, and Mokreon Apartments where I lived. And Jin came back to the map and marked a place on it. I thought about where he had marked, the right-hand side of the Songju police station, the area planned for demolition. Why was he marking that place? I thought about calling him, but decided not to. I didn't know what he was up to, but whatever it was, I was certain he didn't want to tell me about it. All right, so we're about 20 pages in. How's everybody doing? Doing okay? Is the fire good? Is the sound good? Just want to make sure. I don't want to get 100 pages into this and you're like, your mic was muted the whole time. Okay, just making sure. Okay. I'll give you the clear thumbs up. Oh, look at that. It's crystal clear. Okay. Am I feeling smug enough? Oh, I'm full. I'm smug as... Oh, it's screaming. Jungkook, 25 April, year 22. I looked up when someone put his arm around my shoulder. Do you go up to the high places these days? Tay asked. Startled, I looked around. I was always alone after school, and as always, I was walking with my head down. What do you mean? He pointed to the construction site and said, Don't go to a place like that there, especially at night. Got it? I stayed quiet and walked in the middle of the street crowded with students. Tay threw sidelong glances and said, This place sure has changed a lot, but that's still here. I glanced at him. High places? Why had he asked me that? Had he heard it from someone? I hadn't told anybody. But I had gone up to high places. I rode down by the Yangtze stream as fast as I could on a bicycle. Or sometimes I started a fight with thugs on the street for no reason and got beat up. There were dangerous moments. I could have fallen down or, worse, fallen into the stream, but I couldn't stop doing it. When I met the guys again, they all seemed changed. The only one still in school uniform was me. They must have thought of me as a kid still. So when I was around them, I just listened, which I was fine with and was irritated by at the same time. I felt out of place, but happy too. "Where are you headed?" Tay asked. "Yoongi's workroom." Hearing my answer, he looked at me. He looked at me as if it was unexpected. "Really? Aren't you scared of Yoongi? He is quiet, and when you ask him to do stuff, he says he doesn't want to bother and just goes off." Tay suddenly remembered something and pulled me aside and asked, "Does he still click his lighter?" Jimin, 26 April, year 22. When I came out of a group therapy session, the sun was setting. I wondered what time it was, but I wasn't really keen on finding out. No one looked at time here. Date or day was meaningless. It wasn't important whether Tuesday came or after Monday or Friday or Sunday came after Wednesday. It seemed as if it was only yesterday that I had been admitted to the psychiatric ward, either yesterday or several years ago. Passing by the lounge, I heard a loud noise. "This is insane. Nobody is in their right mind. How many times do I have to tell you I am not crazy?" I walked to my room, finally realizing it must be Friday today. "I'm not crazy." This is what everyone says when they get here. After some time, we all accept the fact that, well, we are. The only ones who insist otherwise are new patients. The only exception was that man who was yelling in the lounge now, that tall man with a blank expression who looked crazier than the rest of us. He mumbled constantly that he wasn't crazy and that he had come here of his own volition. It was a stupid thing to do. I could say he wasn't crazy, but that really wouldn't change anything. We were all trapped here. Friday was the day when he had a session in the outpatient ward. On that day, he screamed louder, as if feeling more unhinged, and ended up making everyone nettled or pissed off or doubtful, doubting their sanity and wondering how crazy they were and why they had become crazy. Hearing his screams, I turned the corner only to bump into someone hard. I tried to cushion my fall to the ground with my hand, which sent a throbbing pain up to my shoulder. As I grabbed my wrist in pain with my other hand, someone uttered my name in anger. I looked up, and it was the idiot. "It got all messed up because of you." Outraged, the idiot pointed to the door of the off-limits ward. The iron door was being closed with a clank. Tay, 30 April, year 22. Yoongi did not come back to his workroom that day. Jungkook and I couldn't find out why he was so pissed off. We were rowdy, but we hadn't crossed the line. Not to mention, Yoongi would never have let us cross the line in the first place. I left home with a heavy heart, thinking I should have a word with him. I walked, kicking the paving bricks that stuck out. I tried clicking the lighter that I had picked up in his workroom. In the light, I saw Yoongi's face from my dream. His twisted face in flame, waiting for death. Yoongi's workroom was in the area that had been cleared of people and scheduled for demolition. As I was turning the corner, I saw him coming out of his workroom. I yelled his name, but he must not have heard me, for he disappeared around the street corner. I called his name and ran, but he wasn't anywhere. Where did he go? I looked around only to see Jin sitting in his car at a distance. I became frozen on the spot. The world suddenly became insufferably quiet. Everything came to a grinding halt, except for the loud beating of my heart. It was the face I had seen in my dream, and I remembered the map on Jin's wall, the right-hand side of the Songju police station toward Songju Station, the place he marked on the map. It was here. I walked toward his car. Jin was talking on the phone. "Detective, I'm Kim Suk-jin. We met last time," I heard him say from the open car window. "Yes, Kim Tae-hyung. I thought you know him. If he gets into trouble again, please contact Jung Ho-suk." "Yes, Jung Ho-suk. His contact number is..." I opened the car door. "What are you saying?" Jin looked at me, surprised. He mumbled something and looked down at his watch and then at me. I became nonplussed too and let go of the car door. Jin had no expression, as if someone had erased it off his face. And I felt a sudden chill. I felt so cold that my teeth chattered. It was spring. There was no wind, but it felt freezing cold. "What do you mean?" Jin said as he got out of the car. "Well, you said my name on the phone just now. And why are you here?" Jin started walking and said, "Come with me." I followed him into the alley. In the alley with no sunlight coming in, Jin stared at me, cloaked with the shadow of the building. I said, "Give it to me straight. I saw you marking this place on your map. Why are you here?" He grimaced. He looked behind me and looked down at his watch again. "Do you see the same stuff as I do in your dreams? Jungkook falling and Junie..." Jin ran his hands down his face as if tired. "Tae, you don't know anything." It was then that I heard the sound of scampering feet behind me. Jin looked in that direction and ran out of the alley, glowering. "Where are you going?" As I yelled, I saw the smoke rising up. In that instant, I was reminded of what I had seen in my dream. Yoongi dying, surrounded by smoke and flame, and the scene outside the window of Yoongi's place. That place was here. The smoke became thicker. I looked around and started running. Yoongi might be in there. When I came out of the alley, I saw Jungkook running to the place. Jungkook must also be here looking for Yoongi. Jungkook! I fell down while calling out for him and sprained my ankle. My elbows hit hard on the ground. When I tried to stand up, the ankle gave out. I couldn't run. The smoke became thicker, and I saw the blaze rising up through the window. I clenched my teeth and walked on, dragging my sore ankle. But someone pulled my arm and pushed me into a car. It was Jin. "What are you doing? Yoongi's in there." I tried to push him away, but Jin wouldn't budge. "Wait, the ambulance will be here soon." "Jungkook! Jungkook!" I screamed, but he didn't hear me. After a while, Jungkook turned around as if he would remember something. He came back and picked up what looked like a scrap piece of paper from the ground at a front door of the motel. "Jungkook, Yoongi is in there!" I screamed again. Jungkook lifted his head and looked in my direction, and then he ran into the motel. I turned at the sound of Jin's breathing. Only then I realized that he was still holding my arm tight. He was clutching it so hard that it hurt. I pulled myself out of his grip and got out of the car. This time he let me go without a fight. I heard the siren coming this way. Jungkook dashed out of the motel with Yoongi on his back, with a fire engine and ambulance arriving soon thereafter. Yoongi, 2 May, year 22. "It's gonna hurt a bit." When the doctor started to dress my left arm, blood spurted out from the burn. He said the scar would start to fade away 6 months later. I looked at the blackish red wound. The burnt skin around it seemed like a lick of fire. The doctor said, "The fact you're bleeding is a good sign. It means that the skin underneath is alive." I nodded slowly. The blood was seeping through the dressing, followed by a burning sensation in my arm. The pain brought a dream back about my childhood. In the dream, I'm running, sweating buckets under the scorching sun. I feel dizzy and thirsty. I feel a burning and poking sensation everywhere in my body. When I was little, I was a sickly boy, and my dad did not like that at all. So he made me run every morning, rain or shine. I had to run in the scorching heat or freezing cold. In the dream, I can hardly breathe and think dying would be better than this. Hobie, 11 May, year 22. I woke up to the sound of a text on my phone. Where am I? I bolted up, only to realize I was in Jeonggil Hospital, and I lay down again. The morning sun was coming in through the window. The text message was from my aunt from the orphanage. Yesterday I had a call from one of the brothers from Yangji Children's Home. He told me she had a serious illness. Among so many orphanage volunteers, my aunt was a particularly special person to me. I can't remember how I got to her place. The only thing I remember is seeing her house and seeing her through the open window. She was talking with someone and burst out laughing. The fact that she was sick, that she had to have a surgery, and that the chance of her survival was slim, all seemed like a lie. She almost saw me before I stooped down. If I saw her, I was afraid I would burst into tears. I might blurt out in resentment whether she was going to abandon me as well. I started walking away. It seemed like someone was calling my name, but I didn't look. The last thing I remembered was looking up at the sky from the bridge. I felt dizzy, and my vision suddenly became blurry. My knees buckled, and my ears rang with the loud honking of the cars passing by the bridge. The narcolepsy struck me again. Hobie, are you okay? I'm so sorry. It was a text from my aunt. I've always liked people. My brothers and sisters at the orphanage, the aunts who took care of us, my school friends and teachers, and the customers, and the people I worked with at the burger joint. I wasn't liked by everyone, and sometimes kindness was not returned with kindness, and more often than not, attention and love were returned with hurt and pain. But I was able to hang in there because of the people who were important to me. Would my aunt leave me like my mom did? Would I lose someone important to me again? I felt like tearing up. Who is worried about who here? If you are really worried about me and feel sorry for me, please just stay alive, I muttered. I opened the curtain around the bed and my eyes met those of someone standing outside. Park Jimin. Looking pale and startled, Jimin took a step back. Jin, 12 May, year 22. As I walked into the hospital, I looked up at the window. Hobie and Jimin must be there somewhere. It really was a strange coincidence. Hobie had fainted from sleep attacks from time to time, but he didn't get hospitalized every time. He had this time and ended up in the bed next to Jimin, who had been transferred to the outpatient ward. If that had not happened, I could not have saved Hobie from the accident or found out that Jimin was in the hospital. I checked the time on my phone in front of the emergency door on the second floor. It was 14:15:45. Looking at the time, a smirk appeared on my lips. Because of what had happened to Yoongi and the fire, I must have been too tensed up. Because Tae showed up at that day, things hadn't gone as expected. Jungkook went into the motel a bit late, and because of that, Yoongi was more seriously hurt. But that didn't matter. Something that trivial would not put the time loop in motion again. I had become careless. I should be more mindful. I looked in the direction of the elevator. I waited 15 seconds and called Jimin's name. Jimin, who was near the elevator, looked around. He couldn't see me from where he was standing. Behind me was a huge window at the end of the hallway, and the afternoon sunlight was pouring through it. Jimin took a step toward me. With my head down, I opened the emergency door. I ran up the stairs 3 steps at a time. A woman with a hat on was coming down the stairs, holding hands with a child. I ran closer to the wall so as not to bump into them. The woman looked too young for Hobie to think that she was his mother. Before Hobie could see me, I opened the emergency door on the 3rd floor and went into the hallway. I left the emergency door open to see what would happen. I heard Hobie running down from the 4th floor and through the emergency door on the 3rd floor, followed by Jimin opening the emergency door on the 2nd floor. "Mom!" Hobie yelled after the woman. 4 or 5 seconds passed, and there was nothing. No screams, but the sound of someone panting. Yoongi, 12 May, year 22. When I opened the door to my workroom, I saw Jungkook squatting down in one corner. When he heard the door being opened, he sprang up. He asked me if I was okay and took hesitant steps backwards. I put my bag down and looked around. It was my first time coming back to the place after being discharged from the hospital. The music scores and cups were in their places. Maybe Jungkook had been here every day. I realized it was my first time seeing him since that day. He had saved my life. I should thank him and also say I was sorry. But instead of those words, I took out a soju bottle and gave it to him. Jungkook took it and looked at me as if to ask what he should be doing with it. "Aren't you supposed to not drink?" He pointed to my left arm with the dressing on it. "It can't kill me. It would be nice if it could." Jungkook alternated between looking at me and at the soju bottle and then said something unexpected. "You're right. It would be nicer if it could kill people." And with that, Jungkook started guzzling from the bottle. I thought to myself, do you want to die too? Everyone must have their reason for wanting to be dead. And for wanting to be alive too. Why did Jungkook want to die? And what did he live for? When I first met him, he was in middle school. He looked browbeaten, a loner. Instead of getting along with kids his age, he got swept away with us. Everyone had their reason. I thought it was best not to pry into his life. I grabbed the soju bottle and gulped it down, but Jungkook took it away from me. Time passed. We uncorked a new bottle, and then another. "Why do you live that way?" I asked, as if it were the booze speaking. "Live what way? What's wrong with the way I live?" Jungkook asked, his words sounding slurred. He slouched and looked limp in the face. "Never mind. Just drink." After taking another sip from the bottle, Jungkook asked, "Do you know that I'm still underage? I'm a high schooler. Who encourages a high schooler to drink?" And with that, he lay flat down on the floor. "You think I follow you around because I like you? I'm not worried at all about you. What is there to worry about you? I'm the one who should be worried. But do you know why I come to see you? He mumbled on about things which were incomprehensible. It's because I like your music. When I listen to you playing the piano, I get all teared up. Me, I get all teary. I feel like dying about a dozen times a day. But when I listen to your music, I want to live. That's why. That's why. I said, what I'm saying is your music is like what's in my heart. Jungkook kept talking, but he started to pipe down and finally fell asleep. I sat against the wall and took a sip from the soju bottle and looked up at the piano. Junie, 14 May, year 22. I came back from work and laid down on the cot. I looked up at the moon through the window. I felt tired, but I couldn't go to sleep. I covered my eyes with my arm and tried to fall asleep. Thump, thump. I heard something rolling on the ground. When I opened my eyes, I saw a 10-year-old boy kicking a soccer ball. I had seen him a couple times in the neighborhood. Without anyone to play with, he went around kicking the ball in the dark. The only place he could play was the narrow space between the containers. It took a while for him to come back after he left to find his ball in the dark. Hobie got us together as soon as he came out of the hospital. He said, "Let's get Jimin out of there. He's been trapped there for 2 years, and we can't pretend as if we didn't know. But we don't know what illness got him there." Well, think about the time back in school. Did he look sick to you? We were talking about that when Jin called. He didn't sound as adamant as Hobie, but he said it rather decisively. Of course, we should get Jimin out of there. I remembered seeing him at the gas station a month ago. I tried to remember vaguely what Jimin looked like in school. We decided to meet at the parking lot of the hospital at 8 o'clock in the evening. We had no plans, though. In sleep, I heard the soccer ball being kicked around. I wondered what time it was and why the boy was playing soccer by himself so late at night. Jimin, 15 May, year 22. The hallway looked the same as yesterday, as it stretched out in front of me, and I saw the boundary that I had drawn in my head. My friends came running behind me, but my legs felt heavy as I got closer to the boundary. I felt like falling anytime soon, and the boundary was right in front of my eyes, and my legs faltered. "It's okay, Park Jimin, just run!" Hobie yelled behind me. I closed my eyes and took the next step. I didn't have to see it to know I was over the line. I pushed the door open. The outside air flooded in, and something in my heart started beating really loud. Jin, 15 May, year 22. As soon as I walked into the container, I gasped. I grimaced and grabbed my neck. What was going into my lungs, it didn't feel like air. It was poisonous gas that I was sucking into my lungs. I couldn't breathe, and my body felt as if it was shriveling up. Out of the blue, something flashed in my head and disappeared. Like a shard or a flash of light, something flared and disappeared before I could grasp or make sense of it. It was followed by a massive headache. Enduring the migraine, I kept my mind's eye fixed on a small shred of memory. We were inside Junie's dirty container, laughing about something and having fun. I was also there, and seeing that, I felt oddly sad. My heart ached with feelings of desperation and helplessness. When I tried to remember why, the headache became so much worse, as if my temples were being poked with something sharp, or something was about to explode in my head. I couldn't stand it, so I came out of the container. I thought someone called my name, but I had no strength to look back. I left as fast as I could. The more distant I was from the container, the better I felt. When I finally looked back, I was pretty far away. I had headaches before, but nothing like that. I didn't think it was from stress or tension. It made no sense, but maybe the container was the trigger. Something inside was attacking me. Hobie, 20 May, year 22. I stood in front of a mirror. I lowered the lights and looked at myself. Without the music on, I did a turn in the dance room one Saturday afternoon with no one around. The room was flooded with noise from inside and outside the building. I repeated the turn with my eyes fixed on myself in the mirror. I didn't want to think about anything. I concentrated on my fingertips, the degrees of my feet and knees, and the speed of the turn. I felt hot and sweaty, and my tensed-up muscles soon became relaxed. My ankle gave out, and I was thrown off as I was coming down from a high jump. The hand that pushed against the floor to ease the fall felt numb. My t-shirt was soaked, and I felt a chill from the floor climbing up my back. The sound of my panting was all I could hear. I liked looking at myself dancing. When I danced, I soared without my feet touching the ground, freed from people's eyes and judgment. Nothing mattered except moving my body with the music and expressing what was in my heart with my body. Sometimes I was able to jump unrealistically high and become my true self. But the person I saw in the mirror every time I turned was me in reality. The one who collapsed on the bridge after hearing that his dear aunt got a serious illness. The one who almost tumbled down the stairs trying to chase after his mom. And the one who was helpless in front of Tay as he raged and despaired against his father. Even in that state, I forced myself to smile, saying it would be okay. And when I tried not to see that side of me, I lost my balance and fell to the ground. I remembered the day of the unexpected shower, the people rushing into our joint to avoid the shower, the hysterical ringing of the phones that day. The shower ended as suddenly as it had started, and the people went their ways as if nothing had happened. But the chaos and fear that had ensued stayed with me and had terrified me for a long time. I felt the same as I had that day, the same sense of helplessness. Tay, 21 May, year 22. I got to the closed-down swimming pool earlier than the promised time. I laid down on the mattress in the middle of the pool. Dust rose up, but I didn't care. I lay there facing the sun beating down on me. It felt like I was floating on the empty ocean. I blocked the sunlight with my hand. I slowly turned my hand around. It felt as if the blood was still seeping from yesterday's injury. It had been only a day. I had opened the door and seen something expected but horrific. For a moment, I had gone blank. When I came to, my palm was bleeding. My sister was crying in one corner, and Hobie was telling me to snap out of it and shaking me like crazy. With Jin watching me as I killed my father, that was how the nightmare always ended. The nightmare and reality became all jumbled up and avoided colliding with each other by a hair's breadth. When I asked Hobie how he knew, he said, "Jin had called me. Jin told me to go and see you, to ask you if you would like to go to see the sea." I still had in me that unbearable rage and sorrow as I had lunged at my dad. I didn't know what to do about this raging heart. When I slowly came to, I remembered scene after scene. Jin deep in thought in front of the map of Songju. Jin showing up at Yoongi's accident. The phone call that Jin made. If Tay gets into trouble again, please contact Hobie. Were they all just coincidences? In the dream, Jin simply watched everything, detached. But in reality, he always interfered when we were in trouble. How could I discern what was real and what was a dream? I couldn't forget Jin's face that I had seen in the dream. Was he helping us, or was he pushing us into a certain future? And I think that is the perfect place to end for tonight. How's everybody doing? I know you're all in pain. When we continue tomorrow, it will be the most beautiful day of our lives. Wow. So the plan for this week will be, once again tomorrow at the same time, we'll try to do another hour. And then Wednesday, we will do another hour at the same time. If we get lucky, on Thursday, stand by. If we get lucky on Thursday, we might be able to get a couple of hours in, maybe even a few hours. I don't know how long you want to listen to me run my mouth on this book, but we might be able to do a couple hours, but it will be earlier, probably a couple hours earlier, okay? And we'll just play it by ear. Hopefully you're enjoying it. I know the story is tough, but if anything, I think it's a good story to sit with your friends through. Hopefully you're wrapped up in a blanket and you've got your snacks, you've got your friends with you, you've got a nice crackling fire. Good. Well, I hope to see you again tomorrow at the same time, 8:45 Eastern Time. Until tomorrow, look out for each other. Boop Club.